Okay, well, once again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Walls from CloudShark, and I'm here with Tom Peterson and Betty DuBois, and
Hey.
we are going to be showing you this special session with Betty, which we're very excited about, on the power of profiles and how you can help them speed up your analysis. We are using GoToWebinar for this webinar, obviously. So if you're unfamiliar with it, if you have questions during the webinar, we encourage you to get those questions in as soon as possible so that we can have a good list of them ready to go for Q&A time and not waste any time there. You can just type them into the question box in the lower right-hand corner of your GoToWebinar control panel, and we will see them. While we're going through this, both Betty and Tom are going to be showing you some live examples in using CloudShark. So if you can't see, you can actually use the GoToWebinar window to zoom to a level that's comfortable for you so that you can see the examples as they're going on. So by all means, like I said, ask us questions as we're going on. We'll have a dedicated Q&A session where we'll just kind of have an open discussion about a couple of profile and packet analysis concepts. All right, so let's get started. So I wanted to introduce Betty. We're very, very honored to have her here with us. And she is the chief detective at Packet Detectives LLC, which is an application network performance consulting firm in Atlanta. She's been solving mysteries like these since 1997. I definitely consider her one of the de facto experts on Wireshark and capture analysis and using profiles specifically. She's experienced with a range of hardware and software capture solutions, and she makes it a point to capture the right data in the right place and the right time to find the real culprit. She says that using packets to solve crimes against the network and applications is her passion, and teaching others to do the same is her calling. And with me across the table here is Tom Peterson, and Tom works for CloudShark in development, testing, and support. And he's been involved in networking for 15 years, starting at the University of New Hampshire's Interoperability Laboratory, which is this really great networking lab that teaches students in real time, in the real world about networking. And while he was there, he was very deeply involved in IPv6, IPsec, firewalls, and other network security tech. He has a passion for looking for strange behavior in PCAP files and getting to the bottom of it. And he's also, I hear, going to finally learn to ice skate this winter, now that we actually have the weather for it.
Now we've got some ice, yeah.
It's been very warm in New Hampshire. All right. So what are we going to learn today? We've been talking about profiles a lot lately at CloudShark, just because we kind of feel that working with them in CloudShark is sort of the next evolution of team-based packet analysis. But we wanted to get someone like Betty here to talk about what they are and why they're so important to network analysis, because experts like her have been working with them for so long that it really is sort of best practices around using them, and how they, what was it that you said earlier, Betty? It's that
time is money,
and that's what profiles are about.
Mm-hmm. That's
so
exactly what they're about.
We'll have Betty talk about that, and she'll show us an example of how to use profiles. And then we will move on to how CloudShark sort of improves on the power of profiles with the ability to work with them in teams. And then we'll have that open panel discussion and get to your questions. So like I said, feel free to type in questions at any time and we'll get to the end. And oh, hi, Tony. I see you wrote in. All right, so Betty, why don't you get started? So what are capture profiles and why are they so important to network analysis?
Well, all they are is a set of setting files, and you know, the same concept like an XML file. They're not XMLs, of course, but it's the same idea. I want to have a flat text file that will go ahead and in CloudShark, it's irrelevant what the operating system is, but in Wireshark, you know, they're OS agnostic, and so it gives me a chance, whether I'm running in Mac or I'm running in Linux or I'm running in Windows, to go ahead and have the same settings. So for example, there's a filter that I use all the time. Well, I don't want to type that in again, you know, or there's columns that I use or I look at all the time. Well, I don't want to right click and add that 587 times. I want to do it once. So that's all the profiles are. It's a way to move through your files with the way that you like to do it. Because the way that I like to do it's very different from perhaps the way Tom likes to do it, which is very different than any other packet analysis person wants to do it. And I want to do it the way I want to do it because it's faster. Not to be personal, but I bill by the day. I don't bill by the hour. So if I'm done with an analysis job at 9:30 in the morning, I go home. There you go. There's my motivation.
Cool. So you do have an example that you're going to show us today. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yes,
why
I
don't you
do.
take us
Alrighty. So do you want to do the scenario or you want me to?
just explain a little bit about it and then I'll switch control over to you real quick.
Okay, so all it is we've got a trace file where users are complaining, of course, they all start with that, that a website has stopped responding. So of course they're blaming, you know, the network, of course. And our goal is to find out, is that really the issue, you know, and then fix it, you know, really quickly before anybody else figures it out, or is it somebody else? And can I do that any easier with the right profile?
All right. So let me give control to you.
Okay. Awesome. And there we go. Let's get that out of my way. There we go. And let's minimize that. All right. So I have this trace file so that everybody can follow along. Let's go ahead and pop that into the chat so that you know, and you can open that in any browser. You don't have to have it. You know, you don't have to have access to CloudShark itself. Of course, once you try it, then you'll love it, and then you'll want it. But it's the
So
whole goal.
you're gonna paste some of these into chat eventually, just so everybody knows the chat window is also
Yeah.
at the bottom right corner of your thing.
And I think I accidentally sent that to only the organizers. Stand by. Let me do that one more time to everyone. Yeah, I don't have the option to send it to everyone, even though I'm a panelist. So you'll have to, Jason. Thank you.
I got you.
Awesome. And that way they can check that out. And then also too, while we're there, we might as well go ahead and paste in my Dropbox link. We copy that right quick and send that to you as well. Because one of the things in the Dropbox link, because for me, one of the first things I use, you know, there's as far as profiles are concerned, the main three are filters, columns, and color rules. And ironically, I use my filters and columns to tell me where to start. And one of my favorite columns is the color rules. So kind of tell you where I stand here. And let me pop up. There we go. Just to let you know, for my color rules settings that are part of this profile, and in the Dropbox link is both this screenshot as well as the profiles that I'm using today. All right. And pretty much my profile colors are, you know, red means stop, and then everything else is not red. So there's my entire color rule structure. Okay, so the red stuff's the important stuff. Alrighty. So in this trace, they're warning that you know, we're having disconnects from the web page, and there's a lot of possible suspects. Okay, one of them is like TCP resets. One of them is a lot of retransmissions. One of them is window issues. So what I'm going to do is just sort it by color rule. So I'll sort it once and then sort it twice, just to see what different issues are happening. Okay, what different analysis are happening. And so notice right off the bat, I have TCP window zeros, right? And I'm going to scroll over just enough to show, I want to show my stream number. There we go. So my stream number is right along the right-hand side, and then my color rules along the left. So I've got some zero window issues, right? And then, before I just sit here and scroll, I have other expert errors. And then if I scroll down, oops, too much. Then I've got things like small window size and retransmissions. And there we go, there's my retransmissions and things like that. So there's a lot in this trace file. But since I know that what I'm really looking for is going to be either the resets, the retrans, or the zero windows, I'm going to start with zero windows. Okay. And here, so I'm going to go into my filters and just do a filter for TCP zero window. Now I'm going to hold still there for a second. You might have to zoom in on that just a bit. I have a tendency to comment my my filters. Not everybody does that, but I do it because I do a lot of training. I do a lot of showing other people how to do this. And so I put in the comments, well, depending on what you find, what should you do next? And you know, sometimes that helps me, and then I'd like to think it helps other people. So I'm going to go ahead and go into a zero window. There we go. And I really just want to see, okay, the one who has the one with the one stream that has the most TCP zero windows. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. It's a very small trace file. There's not a lot of packets with the zero window. I can just eyeball it. And I notice that I have quite a few streams here. I'm going to sort it. I love sorting. Sorting is one of the big reasons I add columns. And
So
then
for those who are following along, I did post the link to the capture that Betty is working on right now. I know a couple people asked about it, and there's also a link to the to her profiles to download them from there.
Right. And once I'm done looking at this trace file, I'm going to show you how to import a profile, unless of course, Tom, you had intended to do that, because I left myself one to import.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. And then and that'll be the last thing that we do. All right. So because it takes like 4 seconds. It's awesome. So I go ahead and I look at, and I see I've got a lot for stream 3, right? And then one or two for some of the other ones, except for stream 15, and we'll look at that last. Okay, so stream 13 is the one that kind of is the interesting one. So when you have a zero window, it means that you're announcing to the other party that, hey, my receive window is full. You know, you cannot send me any more pieces of data until I send you a window update. All right. And until my window's bigger. All right. So if I want to go ahead, so it's actually not that terrible to have a zero window that lasts for microseconds. The question is, the longer it lasts, the bigger the deal. All right. So what I want to do, now that I see that I have some for stream 3, I want to know how long they stayed zero, okay? Because I'm looking for, you know, is this relevant or is it just interesting? Because if it just went down and went back up, I don't care, all right? So let's see, I've got a filter for, here we are, oops, let's scroll down a little bit, there we go. So I have a filter for Windows 0 and recovery. Okay. Now I cheated and I made another one that is the same as that one, but has the stream number in it. So I'm going to use it because it's stream 3. Okay. And what the filter is all window updates or window zeros, and then TCP stream equal number 3, the one that interests me. Okay. Now here, let me put the whole thing in the chat for you. There we go. Okay, so put that in the chat. All right, and then Jason, if you could forward that, that'd be awesome.
Sure
All righty.
thing.
Because that's, you know, kind of a long filter. Nobody wants to type that more than one time, you know what I mean? And so here's the cool part, right? In Bettyland, window updates are a good thing. They're a normal thing. They're a happy thing. So they don't have a color rule, all right? But window zeros do. So what I'm looking for is change in colors. Now, of course, there's ways to script this and stuff, but I don't really know how to script and stuff. So I do it with colors, right? So what I'm looking for is a change in colors, right? I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. There we go. And y'all holler when you see it. Everything looks good so far, right? Looks good, looks good, looks good so far. I'm not even looking at it. It looks good, right? Okay. Oh my goodness, there we go, color change. Yeah. Boom, they're all at the bottom. Alrighty. And the kicker is the pattern. I'm going to scroll over a little bit here. The pattern that I'm looking for is window 0 and or window full, and then window update. So, and a teeny tiny delta time in between. That's not what I see. Okay, that's what I want. It's not what I see. So what I see is, you know, 5 or 6 or 8 TCP window zeros, right? And if I scroll over a little bit to my column that has the delta TCP, you'll notice they're being sent out, you know, one right after the other in microseconds. This one that says 62 is like the biggest delta time there is. So they're right, one right after the other, okay? And they're all at the end of the conversation. So let's see if it recovers. You know, I don't have a window update, which I should, if it does recover, right? Let's see something weird. What does happen, you know? So we don't have window recovery. What do we have? So I'm gonna see, see if I stay right here. So I'm at packet 6140. I'll clear my filter. There we go. And come on down to packet 6140. Is there a way to go to a particular packet quickly?
I'll have to scroll down, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm looking for yeah, I just want 6140 right quick.
We do frame dot number.
Oh, that's a good idea. Go, Jason. No, that just takes me there. I need to see what's after it. I can't do a filter for that. Good thought, though. So 6140, there we go. Okay. So I have my 0 window, right? That's the last one. And then check this out. There's a TCP SYN after that, using the same port numbers and the same socket. So now, number one, the person sending the 0 window is the client. Notice it's the 10 dot. The 10 dot is the one saying I've got a 0 window. But this trace file is on the other side of a NAT. So all of the clients are this same IP address. So in reality, packet 6141 is a whole nother conversation. So stream 3 is really 2 different streams from 2 different addresses if we'd been sniffing on the inside of the NAT. Okay. So the last packet out of that is a 0 window. Right. And they just both happen to use the same port numbers, both use the same ephemeral port numbers, and that's why they're both there. But yeah, so we have, so that 0 window is the last piece of that whole conversation between these 2 IP addresses. And after that, there's just no conversation. So, you know, the server got sent like 10 TCP 0 windows, and he's like, oh, okay, well, I guess I can't talk to you anymore. So it wasn't that the server was unresponsive, it was that the client was unresponsive. Plus two, you've got to realize when you're looking at one side of a NAT that the client IP address repeats. So if the ephemeral port number repeats also, it's not really the same stream. So that way it's kind of shows you some of the things that you might see, right? But yes, so the client has a problem and the client is the one sending the zero window. Now, when I have a zero window, it's always due to either A, the application's not pulling the data out of the buffer, right? Or B, there's a resource problem. Well, let's see which one it is. I have a filter for Windows 0 with fault isolation. Okay, let's see if I can get my tooltip to pop up. And so if the time in between the window full and the zero window is microseconds, that means the TCP stack knows that there's a problem with the application and is not going to do a timeout and wait. And so to send its acknowledgement, it's not going to wait for more data. And so if it is a resource problem, it does wait. So the bigger the time between a window full and a window zero means that the more likely, it's not like, you know, carved in stone, the more likely it is that it's a resource problem. So let's see what they have for this one. I'm going to do fault isolation. And you just compare. It sounds like people are underwater.
So actually, Betty, if you could grab that whole URL there at the top, everybody can see how the filter is embedded in the URL. Just go ahead and
There we go.
Copy that, send that to me, and I'll send that out.
Okie dokie. There we go. And you're just looking for, within a single stream, how big is the delta time between the window full and then, or excuse me, the zero window and the window full. All right. So if we've sent enough to fill the window, how fast does the TCP stack reply? Faster it replies, the more likely it is that the application's not pulling the data and the TCP stack is aware of that. So, and that's how you can tell. Plus, if you have enough data, the more data you have, the easier it is to tell. Okay. Now, so in this one, all of the zero window TCP round trip times are very small. So it's the applications. Gosh, what are the odds? Okay, so.
More on that in a minute.
There we go. Now, so that's, you know, super, super quickly how I would approach, right? And using some of the filters that I have to be able to look at that one type of isolation. I did want to go ahead and show you how to import a profile right quick. I'll need to change files because it's a DNS profile and I don't have any DNS traffic in that one. Oh, not a lot of DNS traffic in this one either. That's all right. And I'm just going to go ahead and import a profile. So your profile button's almost all the way over to the right. There we go. And then you can just go into manage profiles. Like I could switch profiles while I was in any of my trace files. All right. And then, or if I manage profiles, I can add one. And so right now I've got one for application layer. I've got one to load a trace file as fast as possible. Everything that could be turned off is turned off. And then I have one for TCP. And I'm about to import the one for DNS. And those are the 4 profiles that are in that Dropbox for all y'all. All right. So I'm going to upload a profile. And let's see. CloudShark profiles and DNS. There we go. Cool. There we go. I would put a better description, you know, but I want to do it fast. And now I don't know anything about groups and stuff. That's what Tom's going to talk about, all right? Because I don't have anybody in my group or anything. But I'm just going to create it just for me, okay? And just right quick to show you, you know, I've got quite a few different columns, although I could add more. And same thing for my filters. These are the filters that it just imported. And I have a number of filters as well. You notice I don't put comments every time, but I try to put comments in, okay, so that they're there for everybody. You know, if it was my TLS profile, I would have keys. Any particular protocol preferences that I might set, right? So there's all sorts of cool stuff. I do a create, and boom, whatever Wireshark filters that I normally would have for my DNS profile now are in my CloudShark. Boom, done. So if I go back to my my file, oops, wrong one. Oh, well. I go back to my file, right, and under profiles, I select DNS, and it's going to remember that I used DNS last time once I set it, right? So I don't have to do it every time. Now all my filters are there. Ta-da! Filters. Okay. Ooh, DNS, IPv6 error responses, and hooray, I don't have any in this trace file, but I do have IP6, so I thought I'd give it a whirl. Okay. So those are the two things that I wanted to show you. Jason, was there anything else you wanted me to show off?
No, that's really great. And it is an excellent example that segues into the example that Tom's going to show. But Tom, before we go on, so for everybody who's watching, Betty is showing this in CS Personal SaaS, which is CloudShark's SaaS offering. And you can go and make an account there and do the stuff that Betty's doing there. Tom's going to show you a little bit about CS Enterprise and how these things work with teams. So talk a little bit about that first, and then we'll go into your example.
Yep. So I'm going to show you guys this on a CS Enterprise instance. So this is an instance you can kind of set up in your own network and use this just for your, organization, your groups and teams. And when you're using profiles in CS Enterprise, to start with, the admin of the system can go in and set up a bunch of profiles for all the users on the system. So if you're not an expert, if you don't, have a bunch of profiles that you've curated yourself, you can kind of jumpstart right there.
Right.
If the system admin sets that up. And then also, if you have groups, users and groups set up, you can have profiles just for specific teams.
Right.
So if you had some, profiles that might only be useful in a security context, you don't need to give those to every user.
In other words, you have keys.
Yep, TLS keys. If you're in a particular environment with a particular application, maybe decode as rules. And then as you're sharing these captures and, collaborating on your analysis, the profile is actually set along with the capture file. So when you share that link out to a capture file, anyone that's viewing it is going to see the profile that you've set.
Right.
They're not going to have to go set up a new one or try to find, download a profile and set that up.
Cool. All right, so why don't you show us a little bit about how that works? So talk about your example that you're going to do here.
All right, so I have an example. The example we're going to use for this is just a user, reporting that sometimes using an internal web server is slow. So just like Betty's, it always starts with a user complaining. So for this example, the user is complaining about this. They're going to take a capture on their system of using this internal web server, upload it to CS Enterprise, and then we're going to go in and figure out why it's slow. Figure out if this is something that the network team needs to resolve, if it's something that the application team that set up this application needs to resolve. We can go in and work with both of those teams and set these up to share our analysis afterwards.
All right. Are you on? You're not on mute there, are you?
No.
Okay. No, just move a little closer, I think.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
Okay, so I will give control over to you.
Awesome. There we go. So I'll share my screen. Awesome. So here I've got, a CS Enterprise instance. I'll start just by logging in here. So here we can see a list of all the capture files in our account. I'm going to take us over to the profiles page so we can look at some of these profiles that have been set up on this CS Enterprise system. So here logging in, we can see, a set of profiles. Here's a wireless profile. I've imported some of Betty's profiles as well. You can see, there's these description fields. These can contain links. So if you want to link to an external website, if you want to set up some instructions on how to use the profile, that can be really useful. And then here you'll see, this kind of top group of 6. These are all set as system profiles. So you can see these have been set up by an administrator. And now I can just go in and start using them myself. I've also got some down at the bottom, some of these security specific ones. So you can see kind of under group access, those are shared with the security team. And these are really all the profiles that I have access to in my account right now. So let's go back to our example. So we'll go back to the capture index and dive into this problem of user reporting some websites are slow. So I've got this top one here on the list. Here we can see it's owned by Jason. We've got a file name and some tags to help us organize this capture file. We can actually go into the information here. And we've got some comments from Jason about the capture file, why it was taken.
I am actually on the network ops team, so
See,
this is legit.
Yep, it's totally legit. So let's open this capture file. I'll show you how I would start analyzing this with profiles. So opening the capture, we've just got our base profile set. This is just the system default. In this case, we're analyzing HTTP. So this is an internal website. So I'm going to go to the profile switcher and switch to our HTTP profile. So we can see a little bit about this profile for analyzing HTTP response times. We've got some information about the saved filters. Again, these could be comments like Betty set up too. So you can just hover over them. It's really nice to kind of leave those breadcrumbs, that information for someone else using the profile, or even for me. I forget stuff all the time. So it's really nice to leave those notes just for myself.
What was I doing last time?
Yeah, every week is different. So applying this profile, we can see just some of the columns that have been set up. Here we can see the server that we're connecting to in the case of an HTTP request. The HTTP response time here has another column. If I go up to my saved filters, I'm going to switch to HTTP. So this is a really simple filter just to look at the HTTP traffic. That's all we're interested in right now as we're trying to dive in and solve this problem. And I'm going to switch now. So here we can just see the HTTP traffic. If I switch to, I've got a filter just for slow responses. So once I switch to this, we can look at any HTTP responses that took over 2 seconds to respond. So here we can see 2. These are probably the 2 pages that the user, is having issues with being slow. So I can just go in and make an annotation here. Again, just kind of so that I remember where I am in my analysis. I love leaving these little notes for myself. And then if I share this with someone else, they'll be able to come in, see this profile being set, switch to this, slow response filter, and they're already using the HTTP profile that I've set up. So now that we've identified a slow response, we need to figure out why. We need to determine if this is something on the network that's being caused there. It could be something with the application. So to dive in here, clear this filter, and we can dive into just this TCP stream. So where I can drag this filter up, we can look at just TCP stream number 8. And once I've applied this, now I want to start analyzing this at the TCP layer. So I've got this, this whole capture file is using the HTTP profile. If I want to dig into something at a TCP level, what I'm going to do is I'm going to export this to a new capture session. So I can create a new session. I can include my annotations, and I can filter on just this traffic. So here's a single slow response. And once I've exported this, I've got a new capture with just that traffic set in it. So now that I'm looking at things at a TCP level, I'm going to switch to my TCP profile instead. We've used the HTTP profile to find a slow response. Let's dig in a little deeper. And what's nice here too is now that original capture file still does have the HTTP profile set. But now that I'm diving into TCP, anyone that I share this link with is going to see the TCP profile now too. So here we can see some columns that I've set up when I'm troubleshooting TCP. I've got the sequence number, acknowledgement number, what CloudShark is calculating as the next sequence number. I've also got the TCP length column. So here we can see anytime a TCP is actually sending data. Just kind of helps narrow down things. We've got the three-way handshake, but no data is being sent there. So now we can see this first message from the client is our HTTP request. So it's trying to get some certain website. And then we can see the server acknowledge and respond. So if we dive in here a little bit, let me hide this annotation so we can make some new ones. We've got our request. And then if we take a look at this acknowledgement number or acknowledgement packet, this is the server acknowledging that it got the request. And if we take a look in this frame layer here, we can see the time since the previous displayed frame was 0.02 seconds. That's really fast. So the server is saying, I got your response, and it's saying that very quickly at the TCP level. So the network itself seems like it's pretty fast. And then when we take a look at the next packet sent by the server, we can see we've got some actual data being sent, and we've got our HTTP OK in the response. If we look at the time difference there, here we can see 2.8 seconds. So now we can kind of narrow things down and say, well, the server is responding and getting the client's data very fast, but then it's taking 2.8 seconds to process that request and send data.
So it is in fact the application's fault.
Does seem like the application in this case.
So how would you tell the app team that that's?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is go back and add some information about that to this analysis, to this annotation. So this response was slow. The server act the data very quickly, and it looks like it's taking a long time to process this request. So this could be, the HTTP server needing to make a database query, and that's taking a long time. It could just be, an inefficient page on that site. But now I've kind of analyzed where the problem is. Now what I can do, I'm actually also so looking at those time differences was really useful in this case. So if we look at the profile, here we can see our TCP analysis profile. If I want to edit this, that delta time column helps show this really easily. So I'm going to save this. This is going to save this for the current session. So anyone I'm sharing this capture with is going to see this profile, this view that I've kind of set up and curated to show the analysis that I've done of the problem. And here that delta time column really just helps show, okay, that's the packet that took a long time. The packet before that was very quick. And now that I've got my annotation, I can go in and take a look at the sharing settings. I can share this with the web apps team. And now they can go in and kind of debug this further now that I've done my analysis and kind of pointed them in the right direction. And once I've done that, I found this TCP, whenever I'm doing TCP, I do like this delta column. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into this profile, and instead of setting this on just the current capture file, I'm going to go in and save this as our TCP analysis profile. So I found that very useful in this case. I'm going to save this to my TCP profile.
Right.
Now anytime I'm using this again, or anyone else that's using this, they're going to get that delta time column.
Cool. Well, that's really cool. So I always found it neat that by using that, like if you happen to go to say a conference that Betty DuBois is at, and you happen to learn something from her about profiles, and you're like, hey, I want to add that to all the stuff that I have the team back home, you just update it here, and then everybody is going to get that.
Yeah, anytime Like I think Betty showed some pretty complicated display filters that take a long time to create and figure out and get just right. And then once you have that display filter, you can also add that to your profile. So you could go in, add a new save display filter, and then save that as your new profile. I know for me too, a lot of times if I'm looking at a particular problem, I'm adding these columns in, trying to figure out what's going to work for this particular case. And that's just going to save it for that capture session,
Right.
which is nice. I'm not going to overwrite my TCP profile for everybody.
Right.
So the next time I come in, I kind of want my TCP profile the way I've set it up.
Right.
Again, I forget everything. So the next week, I don't want to have all these columns that don't make sense to me anymore.
Right.
Plus, you want to test before you commit.
Exactly. Exactly. I really like that. Thanks, Betty.
All right. Well, thanks, Tom.
Yeah, no problem.
And what I would like to do now is come back and let's open up the floor to questions and answers. If we have a couple of things that came in, but if you are ready, if you have a question on for Tom or Betty, just go right into the bottom right-hand corner of your GoToWebinar control panel, and you'll find the question box there. You can type some things in. The first one, yeah, so I think Betty covered this. You do have the ability to import Wireshark profiles into CloudShark as a zip file. So if you've built a profile that you like in Wireshark, there is a way to basically export it into a zip file, and then you can upload that zip file to.
Yeah, so it can go both ways.
Right.
It's hermaphroditic.
So there's that. Obviously, the question we get every time. The question we get every time. There will be a video of this, so we'll send that out to everybody who was here. And when I do that, I'll try to send along the links to Betty's profiles while we're doing that. Okay. Is the question? Oh, Betty, one of your captures had a whole bunch of columns, and I'm scrolling around like crazy. Is it necessary to have?
Yeah. No, it depends. It depends. It's a personal preference. For me, anything where I look up and down in the detail section, which is in the layout in the lower left-hand corner, any field that I look at more than twice becomes a column, because I'm tired of scrolling up and down there. I like to scroll back and forth. It's a thing, because I want to be able to sort. I love to sort columns. It's a thing for me. And so, yeah, but if you don't like to sort, because in other in some applications it takes longer to sort, Wireshark, then you might not like that, but I love to sort.
Excellent. Let's see. Someone did want to see an example of a graph, and I think it was in reference to one of the ones that to Betty's example. If
Okay.
if making a graph of the TCP0 window could also get you to the answer, the same answer quickly.
Sure.
I don't know if you've experimented with graphs in CloudShark at all, but we can.
Yeah, go ahead and give me control.
Yep.
And let's see, let me go back to there we go, to that. That's what I want. The capture file list. There we go. And so if I were going to do graphs, here, I have one. I already actually have one made for TCP0 window, ironically enough.
All right.
Ta-da, ta-da, ta-da. And so, and what I did for this was I did a filter to compare client TCP window sizes and server TCP window sizes. And I could have also looked at per stream if I had done a filter per stream. So I'm going to show you the one I've already got, and then I'm going to do one just for stream 3. And so what I did is I did a filter first for port 80 or 8080 or 443 because I can use it for anything, and it just compares, you know, depending on who's the source, what their, you know, what their window sizes are. Right. So I kind of like that one already done, but let me go ahead and do a filter right quick for stream 3. So Tom, did you just drag and drop your? I didn't even know you could do that.
Sure did.
Yep,
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah.
God, that is so awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna do a filter for stream 3, and I'm gonna be careful to get just stream 3, you know, the real stream 3 that I want. Invalid filter. Oh, oh, it filled in the extra 3 stuff for a protocol. See?
Yeah.
See how that's a protocol? There we go. These things happen. Okay, so but I want to add to it the port number, I mean the IP address for the server that I was interested in. And let's see, oops. And here we go. I'm just going to grab the, yeah, there we go. Ooh, oh, so I can do an append. Oh, aren't you cool? And then I'll just change that to IP adder. So the kicker is, so whoever asked for this is, you want to do your filter first and then create your graph.
You do open a new window.
Open it in a new window.
So I just want
Can I
to
share
point
that?
out that the URL, yeah, so go ahead and grab the URL. We can share that and then anybody can look at it.
Okay, so chat and paste. Digging it. The moral of the story. Money.
Right.
Time is money.
Time is money. Profiles are power. We should change it to time is money.
There we go. Just saying.
Profiles are power and time is money, and they will save you significant time doing your analysis. They do make solving network problems easier when you have the right ones, and you might get them through just learning over time what the right stuff is to look at by getting expert advice from people like Betty and getting profiles that have been curated over time. And then CloudShark really is the best way to work with them if you're working with an entire organization or a team, because in addition to being able to associate the profile with a capture so that when people look at it, they have the right context, you're also creating a repository of profiles for your organization. And that knowledge gets curated over time and updated as you learn new things or go to new classes or find a better way of doing something. But at the same time, people's personal preferences can be applied to what it is that they're looking at without sort of polluting the master amount of information that's going on. And so it works really well back and forth, in addition to all of CloudShark's ability to share with just a URL and do all the things that we showed you just now. So thank you everyone for joining, and I wanted to throw a couple of resources at you before we go. You can find Betty at bettydubois.com, on Twitter at Packet Detective, and you can find us at SharkFest 2020 US. Tom is going to be there definitely, and Betty, I hear you're giving a class.
I am
a special
giving
class at the beginning of SharkFest.
Ironically, on profiles. What are the odds?
Imagine.
Imagine.
So definitely, it's a really great event. It's very fun, and
Oh yeah.
you get to sort of rub elbows with
It's
people who
Geekapalooza.
Yeah, it is. It's like you wouldn't think that there would be that many people that make packet analysis their lives, but there is.
There are.
And so all the examples we've been showing you in CloudShark, you want to try CloudShark for yourself. If you can request a demo of CS Enterprise at cloudshark.io/request. And if you would like to sign up for a CS personal account and get a 30-day trial, you can try all the stuff that Betty is doing right now. And you can get that at the CS Personal SaaS page link that I gave you down there. All right. Any parting words, Betty?
No, come to SharkFest.
Well, thank you very much.
Sniffing packets.
it was really fun. I'm glad you could join us, and
Oh,
I like
cool.
stuff
You're
like this.
welcome. Yeah, no problem.
Awesome.
Thank you, Betty.
Thank you, everybody, for joining,
You're
and
welcome.
I will be sending out an email tomorrow with a link to the video and a link to the capture profiles and everything else. So thanks, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Alrighty.